We need more psychology. We need more understanding of human nature, because the only real danger that exists is man himself. He is the great danger, and we are pitifully unaware of it. We know nothing of man, far too little. His psyche should be studied, because we are the origin of all coming evil.
What if Carl Jung was right? What if the greatest danger in the world is not an ideology, a weapon, or even a particular person, but something that every human being already carries within themselves without fully understanding it? Most people spend their lives watching others. They learn to recognize deception, manipulation, selfishness, and cruelty when they appear in the world around them. Yet despite all the attention directed outward, very little is devoted to understanding the forces operating within their own minds. We live with the assumption that we know ourselves. We believe our motives are clear, our decisions are rational, and our intentions are fundamentally good. That belief feels natural, but Jung believed it could also be dangerous because it encourages us to assume that the darker aspects of human nature always belong to someone else. We notice arrogance, envy, dishonesty, and the desire for control almost immediately when they appear in other people. Yet when the same tendencies emerge within us, they often become understandable reactions, unique circumstances, or choices that seem perfectly justified. Without realizing it, we judge our own behavior through a lens of sympathy, while judging everyone else through a lens of scrutiny. For Jung, the problem was not that human beings possess a capacity for darkness. The problem was that most people prefer not to acknowledge it. A person who recognizes their potential for self-deception, manipulation, or destructive behavior becomes more aware of their limitations. A person who believes they are incapable of such things becomes vulnerable to them. That is why Jung argued that the real danger is not merely the evil human beings are capable of committing, but the unconsciousness with which they can commit it. And if that idea feels unsettling, it is because it forces us to consider a possibility that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. That what we fear most in the world may sometimes begin with what we refuse to see within ourselves. What Jung says next may explain why the same psychological patterns continue to appear throughout history, regardless of how much society changes.
Well, does man, do you think, need to have the concept of sin and evil to live with? Is this part of our nature?
Well, obviously.
And of a redeemer?
That is an inevitable consequence.
This is not a concept which will disappear as we become more rational. It's something which...
Well, I don't believe that man ever will deviate from the original pattern of his being. There will always be such ideas. For instance, if you do not directly believe in a personal redeemer, as it was the case with Hitler, or the hero worship in Russia, then it is an idea. It is a symbolic idea.
This observation may seem simple, but Jung believed it revealed something profound about human nature. Most people assume that as societies become more educated, more scientific, and more technologically advanced, ancient patterns of thought gradually disappear. Yet history suggests something very different. Human beings rarely abandon their deepest psychological needs. They simply give them new names: the need to believe, the need to belong, the need to follow, the need to find meaning in something greater than oneself. These forces continue to shape human behavior, regardless of the era in which a person lives. That is why Jung did not believe that reason alone could transform human nature. A society may reject one set of symbols only to create another. One generation may abandon old beliefs while becoming completely devoted to new ones. The surface changes, but the underlying pattern remains remarkably familiar. This is what made Jung's warning so unsettling. If human beings are driven by psychological forces they barely understand, then progress does not automatically make them wiser. It merely gives those forces new ways to express themselves. The same desire for certainty, the same attraction to powerful figures, and the same tendency to divide the world into good and evil can reappear again and again, often disguised as something entirely new. And when people fail to recognize these patterns within themselves, they become vulnerable to them. They begin following ideas without understanding why they are drawn to them. They defend beliefs they have never truly examined. They convince themselves that they are acting independently while being guided by forces operating far beneath conscious awareness. For Jung, this was precisely why the study of the psyche was so important, because the greatest danger was never simply evil itself. The greatest danger was the human tendency to remain unconscious of the forces capable of producing it. If Jung was right, then the most important psychological task is not changing the world. It is understanding ourselves. That may sound simple, but it is far more difficult than most people imagine. Human beings are remarkably skilled at observing the flaws of others while remaining blind to the forces operating within their own minds. We notice arrogance, dishonesty, resentment, and the desire for power when they appear in someone else, yet rarely stop to ask whether those same tendencies might exist in a form we have never fully recognized within ourselves. According to Jung, this blindness is precisely what gives the shadow its power. What remains unconscious does not disappear. It continues to influence perception, behavior, relationships, and decisions from behind the scenes. The anger we refuse to acknowledge becomes justification. The fear we refuse to confront becomes certainty. The insecurity we refuse to examine becomes judgment. Over time, people become so accustomed to these patterns that they stop seeing them altogether. This is why Jung believed that self-knowledge was not a luxury reserved for philosophers or psychologists. It was a necessity, because the individual who refuses to examine himself becomes vulnerable to forces he does not understand, while the individual who confronts his own darkness becomes far less likely to be controlled by it. Perhaps that is what Jung meant when he warned that man is the great danger, not because human beings are inherently evil, but because they possess an extraordinary capacity to remain unconscious of what they are capable of becoming. And if there is one lesson hidden within that warning, it is that the future of humanity may depend less on our ability to change the world than on our willingness to understand ourselves. If you enjoyed this exploration of Carl Jung's ideas and want more videos on psychology, the unconscious mind, and human nature, consider subscribing, because the deeper you understand the mind, the more clearly you begin to understand yourself.